There was a time when things moved, predictably. You called a service and someone picked up. You ordered something and it arrived when it said it would. You paid for convenience and convenience actually showed up. Now something feels different. Deliveries take longer. Customer service loops endlessly. Repairs get delayed. Appointments are pushed weeks out. And yet, strangely, everything costs more than it used to. The expectation was simple. If systems improved, life would feel faster, smoother, more efficient. But for many Americans, the opposite is happening. Daily life feels slower, heavier, less responsive. Not in a dramatic way. Nothing is completely broken. Just slightly off, everywhere. A delay here, a wait there. A process that used to take one step now takes three. Individually, each moment feels minor. Collectively, it begins to feel like something larger is shifting beneath the surface. Because this isn't just about inconvenience. It may be about a system that is no longer designed to move at the speed people expect, even as they continue to pay as if it does. And that raises a quieter question. What if the slowdown isn't accidental, but structural? In 2015, the idea of fast still felt tangible. 2-day shipping meant 2 days. Calling a service line meant waiting but not indefinitely. Booking a home repair might take a few days, sometimes a week. By 2026, the expectations haven't changed, but the timelines quietly have. In cities like Phoenix and Dallas, homeowners now report waiting 2 to 4 weeks just to schedule basic repairs, plumbing, HVAC, roofing. In parts of Florida, after major storms, those waits stretch into months. At the same time, the cost of those services has risen sharply. Home maintenance costs in the U.S. have increased significantly since 2020. Not only because of material prices, but because of labor shortages and scheduling bottlenecks. So people are paying more to wait longer. The same pattern appears in healthcare. In 2015, the average wait time to see a specialist in major metropolitan areas was already a concern, around 2 to 3 weeks in many cases. Today, in cities like Boston and Los Angeles, that number has climbed well beyond a month for certain specialties. Primary care isn't immune either. Appointments that once took days now take weeks. Urgency hasn't disappeared. Capacity has. Then there's customer service. Call centers that once connected you to a human now route you through automated systems that can stretch interactions from minutes into half an hour or more. The average resolution time has increased even as companies invest heavily in efficiency tools. Again, the cost hasn't gone down. If anything, it's embedded quietly in subscription models, service fees, and pricing structures. Even everyday consumption reflects the same shift. In 2015, grocery shelves were largely predictable. Supply chain disruptions were rare, and when they happened, they were temporary. After 2020, that predictability fractured. Out-of-stock items became more common. Restocking cycles slowed, and while availability eventually returned, the sense of immediacy didn't fully recover. At the same time, grocery prices rose. So the experience changed in 2 directions at once: higher cost, lower responsiveness. And perhaps most subtly, the housing system itself began to reflect this slowdown. New home construction in the U.S. has struggled to keep pace with demand for years. Permitting delays, labor shortages, zoning constraints all contribute to longer timelines between decision and delivery. A house that might have taken 6 to 8 months to build in the past can now take significantly longer, depending on location and labor availability. Which means even the supply side of the system is moving more slowly than the demand pressing against it. And yet prices continue to rise. That contradiction is where the discomfort begins. Because in most systems, higher prices are supposed to signal improved service, faster delivery, better outcomes. But here the signal seems inverted. People are paying more, but receiving less speed, less access, less responsiveness. Not in a catastrophic way. Nothing has fully collapsed. But the margin, the space where life used to feel manageable, has narrowed. And when multiple systems begin to slow at the same time, housing, healthcare services, logistics, the effect isn't just delay. It becomes a new baseline. One where time itself starts to feel more expensive, more constrained, more uncertain. And for most people, that shift doesn't show up in a headline. It shows up in a calendar, in the growing space between when something is needed and when it actually happens. Which raises a more personal question. What does this slowdown look like inside a single ordinary life? Mark is 42 years old. He lives in the suburbs outside Phoenix, Arizona. He works as a project manager for a mid-sized logistics company, earning about $92,000 a year. His wife, Elena, works part-time at a dental office, bringing in another $2,200 a month. On paper, they are stable. 2 incomes, 2 kids, a house they bought in 2018. 5 years ago, their life felt on track. The mortgage is $1,850 a month. That hasn't changed much. But everything around it has. Their homeowner's insurance used to cost $110 a month. Now it's closer to $340. Property taxes have been reassessed twice. They're now paying about $620 a month when averaged out. Electricity, especially in the Arizona heat, regularly hits $350 to $450 in summer. Groceries for a family of 4 around $900 to $1,100. Childcare used to be manageable when their kids were younger. Now it's after-school programs, activities, and irregular care about $600 a month. Car payments and insurance, $780. Health insurance premiums and out-of-pocket expenses, roughly $850. Streaming services, software, small subscriptions, things that didn't exist a decade ago, add another $150 to $200. When you line it up, the math becomes uncomfortable. Their combined monthly income after taxes is around $6,800. Their fixed and semi-fixed expenses, just over $6,400 in a normal month. On paper, they still have a buffer, roughly $400. But that number assumes everything goes right. It assumes nothing breaks, no delays, no surprises. And that's where the slowdown starts to matter. Last summer, their HVAC system began to fail. Not completely, just enough to make the house uncomfortable. Mark called 3 companies. The earliest available appointment 9 days out. It was August. They waited. When the technician finally arrived, he confirmed what Mark already suspected: the system needed a major repair. The part wouldn't arrive for another week. Total time from first call to actual fix, 16 days. During that time, they ran portable units. Electricity costs spiked. Sleep got worse. Tension in the house rose. The repair itself cost $2,800. That $400 buffer disappeared instantly. But the real impact wasn't just the money. It was the waiting. The sense that once something started to go wrong, there was no quick way to stabilize it. A few months later, Elena tried to schedule a specialist appointment for a recurring health issue. The earliest slot was 5 weeks away, so she waited. Life didn't stop, but it didn't move cleanly either. Everything became slightly delayed. Small issues lingered longer than they used to. Mark began to notice something else. Tasks that once took a single step now took several. Customer service calls that used to resolve in 10 minutes now stretched into 40. Scheduling anything required more planning, more follow-ups, more uncertainty. Individually, none of it felt catastrophic. But together it created a new kind of friction.